Welcome to the Creativity Loves Constraints podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Key. On today's episode 8, we've got Grady Teske, founder and CEO of Prodex and growth partner at Veebo. Grady is based in Appleton, Wisconsin. How do you attend a baby shower or a kid's birthday party in a pandemic when people are quarantined? Grady Teske has a solution. Grady spent 15 years in product marketing. This showed him the great disconnect between the end user consumer and manufacturers who are producing the products for the end consumer. In today's world, more than half of the discovery phase of new product development and purchasing happens via social media. And Prodex exists to close the gap by developing a social media feed for product discovery. Grady is also growth partner at Veebo, a live event platform. But now that there are no live events for the foreseeable future in Covid-19, Grady shares how 4 weeks ago, they designed a completely new value proposition, shelving all of their existing marketing material and reprioritized development of certain features to meet the needs of this moment. Hope you enjoy the conversation. I've got with me Grady Teske from Appleton, Wisconsin, and he is the founder and CEO of Prodex and the partner at Veebo. And Grady and I met probably about 4 months ago through a mutual connection. He and I chatted about what he's got going on at Prodex and as well as Veebo. And so he and I corresponded recently and telling me about a neat pivot that he's been doing in his companies. And so Grady, thanks for being on here today.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I think that this podcast is really essential for the local businesses. And we're trying to see what other people are doing, how we're adapting, because everybody's kind of learning on the fly. So
they are. Yep, absolutely. No, thanks for being on. I appreciate it. So yeah, like for starters, we're going to get into the constraints, the pivot and stuff, but let's level set and tell me about you, your background, and what you've got going on at Prodex and as well as Veebo.
Sure. So I came out of a traditional, I would say, enterprise product background and spent over a decade working with manufacturers and helping develop branding strategies and go-to-market strategies. And part of that, I ended up working with a lot of overseas companies and helping to develop their American subsidiaries. And so I thought it was a really unique perspective in what I'm doing today, which became a natural progression in working with startups and consulting them and helping them to set up and utilize their business formation as a strategy, and then take that to the next step to help them grow and get additional user growth and leverage to get to where they need to get to a funded level. And so doing that, I've actually been able to engage a couple of long-term clients. One of them is Veebo, as we discussed, and Veebo, I've recently become on board as a partner for them, focusing on growth strategy. And so Veebo is an event management platform. We're moving to the market prior to this current pandemic. We had just started to do our alpha test in the Boston market, and we were planning and beginning our beta test for the New York, New Jersey market. And so as an event management marketplace, what we're trying to do is really focus on bringing some of the tools that you see for large event management companies. Think about Eventbrite, think about on a wedding side, what you see from the Knot, and bringing them to average size events that affect all of our lives personally, whether it's a child's birthday, a baby shower, wedding itself, or even funeral memorial events. Those kind of commonplace events that happen throughout our lives that do require planning, but don't have the same tools that a real professional event does. So it was a change there. And then at the same time, using that experience to help guide and develop my bootstrap startup, which is Prodex, which is utilizing social media to change the marketing and customer acquisition strategies for enterprise product manufacturers or B2B products.
Real quick, so let's dive into Prodex. Just to make sure I want to make sure that the problem comes through that you're solving, because I know it's a big problem you and I talked about over coffee. Can you lay that out?
Yeah, so my experience working with those brands and helping to develop their product strategy kind of exposed the great disconnect between end user consumers, or the people actually using an industrial construction, B2B enterprise product, whatever it is, on a daily basis, and then the manufacturers developing that. And that's primarily today because of the old school sales is king pipeline model strategy, which kind of disconnects the end users from the brands. So what Products is doing is we're utilizing newer marketing techniques that we've seen that work for commercial products, such as social media management, digital marketing, and how do we connect with those end users on an earlier level? How can those connections lead to product development strategies for manufacturers? And at the end of the day, really the goal of Products is to link digital products from social media and et cetera all the way through to the buy box to make it a much more simple acquisition for both the consumer and for the brand.
Nice. Is it, I'm kind of imagining a kind of a marketplace type platform type, is it two-sided model then? How are you breaking that down?
So we definitely have multiple user sides. And rather than a marketplace strategy, it's really important for us to focus not on the product purchase, but really changing the focus of the conversation to the product use and the product values. And so we do that through like a social network feel, but really that's the front end part of it, how we get people informed on the products and their use, and how brands can control their stories about not just how the products are used, but the company itself and why it's of value to the consumer. But it's also important to take all that data, whether it's through a social post or a brand, product advertisement, whatever it is, and then categorize it and link it in a way that, it can be reviewed through Amazon, through existing marketplaces, Grainger, and down the line integrated to custom purchasing software as well.
Okay. Very cool. I love that. When you and I chatted over coffee, it was evident to me, not being familiar with the space, but just how big of a problem you're solving. And I'm excited that you're doing it. So that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's definitely a tremendous opportunity. And I think when you think about it in terms of what's happened just over the last couple months too, I think one of the long-term outcomes of this kind of pause or safe at home, whatever we're calling it, sort of environment, is that people are really seeing the value of those personal things that they use, whether it's, messaging, video chatting through FaceTime, or it's use of social media to connect with your customers, taking a lot of those virtual meetings virtual. And so long term, some of these things are going to stick. And I don't think it's just the Zoom software that's going to be a benefit. I think that there's going to be a lot of change in the way we're connecting and reaching out to customers. And so I'll say that puts pressure on us, because I think now's the time to really come up with and define these solutions. So we're working hard towards that end.
Awesome. I just as an aside, I'm a marketing minded guy as you are, and I loved I love when you were describing your company. It was very very simple, easy to understand, not full of jargon. And so thanks for that, because I really appreciated that. I think that really comes through. I think the best companies are the ones that can communicate the simplest. So kudos to you on that. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Can you describe, what 2020 had in store for you, when you were thinking about January 3rd, when you're, it's January 1st and you're thinking about what the new year had in store. What did 2020 have in store before, any of this happened, right? With COVID-19?
Yeah. So I think we started off 2020 with really high spirits and anticipation. I think because both for Veebo and for Products, we're bootstrap startups at this point. So we are moving into a trial stage for Veebo. Was started in March, very early in March, late February. Products is slated to have our social network feed up in early April here. It got delayed a little bit, but we're still on for a Q2 launch. So we're at this point where we've got products, we've been working hard, we've got the ideas, we're about ready to show the fruit of our labor, and then the market gets disrupted a little bit. Certainly, Veebo was affected quite a bit more as far as what are we doing with our current strategy and how do we rethink, because essentially live events are non-existent right now.
Sure.
And we don't know what the schedule or the timeline is to come back to that. But products, on the other hand, kind of continuing to move forward. One of the benefits, I think, for both companies has been that at this level, we're certainly remote first. We're bootstrapped, so we're not really tied to investors and returns at this point. And we're also able to do this with contractors more than we have full-time employees and personnel. So we don't have the same sort of constraints that you would see from a Series A or post-seed startup. So this has really been, I'd hate to say it's been an advantage to us, but it certainly hasn't affected our business model. And where it has been an advantage is that at this stage, we're constantly looking for additional talent, whether it's on a design and development side or on a marketing and customer side. And over the last 3 weeks specifically, now we're recording this in early April, I'm starting to see more frequently good quality talent that has started to establish themselves in their career. They've done some things. They're either looking for other opportunities, they're ready to move on, or they're recently there's been a change due to the COVID employment where people are being let go or temporarily let go. And then there's also quite a few, I would say, excellent contractors out there that have a full-time job, feel a little nervous about it, and are looking to do some side work. And that's really created an opportunity for us where a couple of weeks ago, we were having to really sort through a lot of talent to find the type of people we wanted to work with. But today, we're able to bring a couple people on board to the team from a contractor role and really look to scale them to a full-time role. And that's been a real advantage for us.
Very cool. So you're basically capitalizing on, I would say people who are maybe feeling a little bit like they want to diversify themselves, right? Maybe they still have a full-time job, but they're kind of thinking, all right, next time this hits, I might not be in a job like I am now. So what's next for me, right?
Definitely. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I also wanted to say, I think that this time is also creating an opportunity for people to really look at least from the conversations I've had with these contractors, is that what are we doing? Like, what am I doing in my current career? Like, is this something I really love? Is it something I can really stand up and believe in? Or, do I want to make a pivot in my personal career to something that's more important to me?
Sure.
And I'm certainly getting that a lot in interviews with people. So I think that's a benefit.
So when you're having these interactions with people, or even before that, really, where are they coming to you? Like, are these people that you're already in touch with, or are you, finding them on LinkedIn, or how are you? Are these already existing relationships?
Sure. So I think no. The answer is no. I think a lot for what I'm looking at. First of all, I can say that both of these businesses, Veebo and Products, have a very strong remote first attitude. And both of us, myself and Mike, my founder on the Veebo side, have worked remote for a decade plus. We're very familiar with it. And I think both of us also believe in inclusivity, in bringing in really high quality people regardless of surroundings, as much as anything. And so that being said, one of the things I'm constantly looking at is both LinkedIn, Angel Lists, and also through freelancer platforms like Upworks and those sort of things, and really looking at who's joining. I'll say that Upwork specifically, we've seen a lot of contractors coming on board over the last 3 months with different levels of experience. And I think that also has tended to be because generationally, I'm starting to see lots of quality talent in the mid-20s on those platforms. So
cool.
But yeah, so that it's constantly monitoring that. And, I think as any small business or startup, I'm constantly looking at social media too, and looking throughout all those networks to try to see, who's looking, what are the opportunities, because those are the places where you're really finding people reaching out for new opportunities and trying to make a pivot that aren't just looking for a job. They're just trying to really find the right opportunity for them.
I love that. That's really cool. That's kind of an unanticipated, not going to say consequence, but it's certainly an unanticipated elements to this COVID-19 situation that has caused people to, I like how you said, potentially pivot in their own lives, either personally or professionally. And it's neat that you've noticed that as an opportunity and you're positioning yourself well and are taking advantage of that. That's really, really cool. With Veebo, one of the things that you mentioned was that because it's a live event platform, there are no events happening. So that obviously, this COVID situation derailed that. I would say maybe derailed, but it certainly called into question whether or not that was a viable path. So are you seeking kind of a way to pivot around that into a virtual event space, or can you tell me about that on the Veebo side?
Yeah, so that pivot, the Veebo has had the most drastic pivot of any of the businesses that I work with, and obviously rightly so. We started to see almost immediately, because we were doing our trials on the East Coast much earlier than we started to see effects here in the Midwest. Event businesses it went from one day we were talking to them, it was business as usual, they were a little bit concerned about it, to literally 2 days from that, reaching back out to someone and they're just telling us, hey, we're battening down the hatches, we're not doing anything with our business for the foreseeable time being, it's about taking care of our family and trying to find other opportunities. And so it was really a quick, drastic change. And we're also seeing—
How did you feel when you got that? Those emails come in at the same time. I mean, that's whoa.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think working virtual and, like I said, being on social media and having those sort of experiences, I think I started to get a sense earlier on than the general Midwestern public that, hey, this is a real serious thing. It's beyond what people are just saying it is. Because, small to medium-sized business owners don't just completely close their business. Sure. And it's not like they're giving up either. They're just saying, look, there's no way we can manage that with what else is going on in our lives. So there's a little bit of concern there. And I hope those people are doing all right now and finding other ways. That definitely comes into the strategy in a second here. Yeah. But we started to see those conversations and began rethinking how we were going to get through a event space, especially when we started to see the government enacting these safe at home and time frame quarantines, et cetera. And so one of the functions that we had always had in our line of development products, it was really adding a virtual party room into Veebo. And so let me take a step back. And like I said in the beginning, Veebo is really about creating tools for both party planners, and in this scenario, we're really talking about families, small to mid-sized businesses that are doing things like sales meetings, etc.
I love that. I love that. That's an untapped market, I would say. I love that.
Definitely. And that's one of the things what we really started to look at is there's a lot of competition in the wedding space. And there's a lot of competition on the really large event professional space. I've come from a market where going into trade shows is pretty regular part of my life over the last 15 years. So where is the opportunity and who are the people doing that? It's really the same people going to weddings progress into having these regular family parties, especially when you consider the couple that follow a wedding, the first child, the baby shower of the first child. Sure. Those are all really important events for the family that take a little bit of time to organize. I have 4 children, so I understand how that works. So you start combining with what we're seeing in the market. You start at the same time thinking about something that we'd always planned on doing. Let me take a quick step back and pivot this conversation a little bit. For about a decade, I lived in Los Angeles, where all my family lived here in the Midwest. And so we were having Skype video parties quite a while ago, and I remember our first baby shower was held on Skype, and the frustration in dealing with that one-to-one video call back then. So we started to think about how can we take that experience that people are now having for business meetings and sales calls and in education. Actually, my daughter's upstairs right now doing a Zoom meeting with her entire class. So how do we take that and we really use it to bring that joy that is a birthday party and these events, especially school-age birthday parties? You can really tell now through parents that there's a definite concern about their children not able to connect with their classmates.
Yeah.
So what we're building in, and we're actually launching here in about a week to 2 weeks, is Veebo video chat, many-to-many video chat. But it's not just a video chat like along the lines of what Zoom is. We're actually much more focused on creating a virtual party room. Essentially the same thing that you would get booking it at your local trampoline or fun center. So the interface is designed around the specific type of event. We're bringing in AI and emojis to really make it more than just a professional Zoom call.
Cool.
We're trying to really make it so it's focused on trying to bring some of that joy and definitely that connection to the consumers and the party planners. But
cool.
That's step A. Once again, let's take a step back and really look at the core focus of what Veebo is designed for, and it's really to provide those event vendors or party vendors, which are small to mid-sized businesses, with the tools to keep them close to the customer again.
Yeah.
And so we couldn't do the Veebo virtual party without our vendors. And so what we've really been working on is how can we continue to integrate and provide business opportunities for these vendors during this time. And so we're looking to have direct integration with entertainment and musician. We're working to set up opportunities where catering is possible. So, not catering the food for the entire event, but I see a world where we can have birthday cakes sent to each of these 10 houses for the children. And really it's about...
Love that. That's so cool. I'm digging that.
It's really about how can we help provide business opportunities for these people during this time when they can't get out there. And then beyond that, there will always be opportunities of virtual attendees to parties. And so how do we take that and start blending that? And I think that's part of our life moving forward, is how do we have a virtual and real life blend and really manage it.
I love that. So was this a path that you guys pivoted into like 4 weeks ago, when the floors kind of falling out from everything and everyone was canceling on the East Coast? Or did you was this like a build in your product that was coming down the line for months? Like how did that work out?
It actually worked out. It was part of the eventual development plan, but not in the sense that it is today. Like what we had originally planned for is we're working on developing a good group messenger to really cut everything about Veebo is about helping make the process simpler. So how do we take those in-person meetings that aren't necessary and present your opportunity to the customer so they can quickly understand it, move into a virtual meeting or a chat, and then escalate into a call if needed before the event for scheduling. So we took what was originally a scheduling and planning tool and really changed it around to focus it on actually being the event itself. And certainly it started off with just thinking about it, seeing what was going on. My daughter had one of my school-age children had a birthday early in March that we had to cancel, and so it was obviously on my mind, and starting to see all that leading up on social media. And so we've kind of been keeping an eye on the trends and what people are saying in moms groups on Facebook, etc. And so that pivot really changed to making it a customer-facing model now. And
wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So now that pivot is in place, you're going to be launching it. I know we don't know how long the safer at home guidelines are going to stay in place. Do you see this foresee this for the rest of 2020, or like how do you think about that?
Well, so we're completely changed our strategy then as far as marketing and everything else. We just decided what started off as an idea a few weeks ago and moved into development and kind of became focused. And then this last, I would say over the last 5 days, we stopped development on everything else and really also stopped all of our customer facing marketing activity and selling activity to really focus on, launching this new segment.
That involves like developing a value proposition and the messaging, right? I'm assuming like you're totally reworking it.
Yeah, and like I said, we have multiple consultants that we work with, or contractors that we work with on our marketing and social media management and those sort of things. So it's like we've been facilitating a lot of ideas on how we can move to a pivot, and now we're really going full court press and like changing that strategy as of this week to really just focus on the virtual party because a little bit of what you said, I think as the school year winds down here, like this is a definite problem right now, and it's not just child age birthdays. I get a little emotional thinking about, the weddings that are going to be missed this summer and the children. One of the things, we're certainly seeing as part of this crisis that has a humane touch is that people are now really alone at the start and at the end of their life. And I think that's a real challenging thing. And so you think about how can we affect that moment too, like during the birthing process and immediately after when you'd normally share it with your closest family, or at the other end of the spectrum. And so personally, nobody knows how long this is going to go on, but I do think that we're going to see change throughout the rest of 2020 for certain. And I think that regardless of that, we see a world that long term, maybe, I don't know, 15, 20, 30% of those events that we used to have in person might be held virtually. Because the other aspect is, we think about our core audience is a lot of school-aged families, and these are busy professionals at challenging points in their life, and it's a real stressful time to organize those events. And so how many of those will continue to be held in person and be large events like that? How many of them, instead of spending the large period on the bounce house and such, you're going to do this route?
It's when you were talking about the kind of the personal anecdotes and stuff, one of the things that I thought about was, I used to travel quite a bit for work when I was doing my startup full time. I was traveling to New York, to Boston a lot because there's a big finance industry in both New York and Boston. I had a fintech company, and I miss a lot of events back at home. And you can imagine this could be this virtual party type format could be either used or extended to business travelers who can't be with their family and are missing out on soccer games, are missing out on baseball games, or are missing out on bridal showers, those kind of things. Like, I love it. I think that's a pain point that people probably know that they have, but they don't know that there's something that can be done about it. And we'll be, nothing can replace that fact, that feeling of being there and that connectivity. But that's, like I said, the same thing with the vendors. One of the things I think that this is the initial stage of the Veebo virtual party. But long term, our focus is going to be blending those things and bringing it in and really creating, like I said, with the vendors, opportunities to take it to another level and try to make it really something that can at least not replace, but provide a sort of adjunct feeling to being there and have that value. So, cool.
So we're awesome. Definitely, we're excited to be moving forward in that. We're really pushing hard for a launch. I personally am excited to be using this because we've got a lot of family parties and events coming up here that I think bring a lot of value for us. So.
My sister's getting married in June, and there's a whole lot of debate about, they're still going to have the wedding or not, back and forth. And so maybe the world we live in the future will be, you don't have to choose. People can still come and people participate, right?
Yeah. I think, cool. I can't imagine what it's like to be in the shoes, the stress of planning all that, and then having this kind of change on your hands. But to that end, I do think there is, for the people going through it, there's a lot of opportunities. And for somebody that's worked remote for a long time, there's a lot of tools that are out there to help you out. Don't stress about it. Things might be different, but at the end of the day comes and the day is there. Like the participants make an event special.
Sure.
So that's the important thing.
That's well said. I love just thinking about reflecting over this conversation here. You've learned a lot. You've pivoted. You've noticed an opportunity. You were in live events. Now you pivoted into virtual events through all your resources, development-wise, into developing out these features, rework value proposition. So at the end now of our conversation, I'll ask you, reflecting back on the last 4 to 6 weeks of heads down work. What's a lesson learned? I mean, what's your takeaway? Do you have anything that you can share comes to mind?
Yeah, I think if I could put like a cherry on top of this cake here, one of the things that I'd like to express that I've learned over the last month, but even longer than that, over the last 2.5 to 3 years, is that people should do what's important to them, do what they feel, go with the flow, and don't be afraid to really change everything about yourself, because there's nothing static in the universe, and especially when it comes to times like this. And I guess a little bit of context, about 3 years ago, I decided I wanted to move away from product marketing and being around physical products and really focus on starting that products, which was a PaaS platform as a service business opportunity. And so that's a pretty marked change. And so I had to learn a lot of things about that and how I was going to do that. So I started consulting and I started working with companies, and I really threw myself into a whole new world, and I've adapted. And then in the midst of that, there was a pretty large event within my family where my wife had to leave for a significant amount of time and just take care of my mother full time. And so that changed my family dynamic, and it changed the strategy and the levels of where we're going. So over the last month here, this is nothing new to me. This has kind of been like a constant renewal over the last 2 years. So for the people that are going through it, it's important to always be fluid, be comfortable knowing that what you anticipate happening might change. And to remember the most important things throughout of all of it is that, we put expectations on ourselves to reach certain goals and guidelines. The only person that's disappointed if it's not met is generally ourselves. If you just embrace the outcome that comes from the fruit of your labor or the hard work you put into it, and then at the end of the day, remember that you've done enough, and remember to focus time on your family. Those things really lead to having less stress and, being happier with what you have, and generally get you in tune. So
cool. I love that. Cool. Well, hey Grady, thanks for having this chat. This is fantastic. Really enjoyed the conversation. I really enjoyed the way you're thinking about things. Love your mindset, and thanks for sharing the story of products, Veebo. If we want to contact you, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I think you can certainly find me on LinkedIn. Okay. I'm also on Twitter pretty regularly. And I have my contact information on there. But you can also reach out to me through my consulting side, always through Grady at moderndisc.com.
Sweet.
But I definitely appreciate the opportunity. Like I said, I've listened to the last several episodes you've done. I think this is a really unique thing. And it's always valuable as a small to medium-sized business owner or a startup, whatever it is, to just get perspective. Absolutely. And I'm glad you're bringing it. So thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you for bringing yours. Really appreciate it. My conversation with Grady reminded me of one of the most powerful marketing theories that I use. It's called the jobs to be done theory. It was created in large part by Clayton Christensen, the late Harvard Business School professor and author of several well-known books. The jobs to be done theory says that people have functional, emotional, and social jobs that need to be done. When a customer buys a product, they're essentially hiring that product to do the job for them. They're pulling the product into their lives to make a level of progress toward achieving those jobs. I leverage this theory all the time when advising companies. In my opinion, there is no better theory to inform innovation, product development, and marketing than the jobs to be done theory. The theory states that every job has a functional, emotional, and social dimension. In every case, the emotional and social jobs tend to heavily weight the decision. Let's apply this to Grady's company, Veebo. If I am hosting a baby shower or a kid's birthday party, then I have the functional, practical job of putting on a birthday party and organizing the guest list, etc. But I also have the emotional job of desiring for my child to still have an amazing birthday and to not have social distancing ruin the special day. Perhaps I might even have a social job of desiring to show the other parents that I am current with the latest technology that still enables their children to have a great birthday experience. Live events such as baby showers, kids' birthday parties, and others certainly have functional, but also have strong emotional and social dimensions to them, which I would argue are accentuated during this time of quarantine. Veebo can position itself and its messaging along these dimensions, and they will be the product that is hired when virtual events need to occur. I know that we'll be hearing more from Grady, Products, and Veebo in the future. If you want to check out Grady's companies, Veebo is available in the app stores and on mobile optimized web at veebo.com. You can follow their team on social media for tips on party planning, event management, and virtual events. Products is available today on social media at products.com. That's PRODEX.com. And Grady can be reached at moderndist.com and on social media. Thanks for listening to the Creativity Loves Constraints podcast. I'd ask this of you. Let me know what you really love about this podcast, but also let me know what you want more of. This feedback will be very helpful to me as I think about future episodes and how I can position this in the way that really would set you up for success. Thanks.